You can eat a steak the size of your head and still end up protein deficient. It sounds impossible, right? But most people have no idea what actually happens to protein once it hits your stomach. Here's the twist. Your body cares less about how much protein you eat, and more about how it gets used, recycled, or wasted. And the newest research flips decades of protein advice upside down. So if you've ever worried you're not getting enough, or wondered if more is always better, stay with me. By the end, you'll know the protein rules that actually matter for your body, not just your Instagram feed. Let's start with a classic mistake. Thinking of protein as fuel, like carbs or fat. Picture your body as a high-tech factory. Carbs and fat are the fuel tanks, burned for energy. Protein's different. It's the building material, like bricks, cables, and machinery. You don't burn bricks for fuel unless you want the whole place to collapse. Yet, when you run low on energy, your body will start burning protein anyway. That's one reason crash diets can wreck your muscle, even if you're eating plenty of protein. But here's the catch. Your body's protein factory isn't a one-way conveyor belt. Every day, you break down and rebuild about 250 grams of protein inside you. No steak needed. That's 4 times what you're told to eat. So where does all that protein come from? Most is recycled from old cells and damaged proteins. Your own body is the main supplier. The food you eat just tops off the tank. Here's the weird part. Even if you double your protein intake, you don't double muscle growth. After a point, eating more protein just makes for expensive urine. But there's a twist. Not all protein is treated equally. Animal proteins, like dairy, eggs, meat, contain all the essential amino acids. Plant proteins often miss a few, so you need more variety to fill the gaps. But most people miss the real issue. Timing and context matter more than the source. Let's test this with breakfast. Eat protein in the morning and you trigger muscle-building signals that last hours. Skip it, and your body burns through muscle to make up the deficit, especially if you're stressed or active. And as you age, your body becomes less efficient at using dietary protein. So older adults actually need more protein per meal to get the same muscle-building effect. That's why the one-size-fits-all protein number is basically useless. Now, let's zoom in on what happens right after you swallow that steak or shake or tofu burger. Stomach acid unravels the protein chains so enzymes can chop them into amino acids. Those amino acids slip into your bloodstream and head to every corner of your body. But here's a trick your body pulls. If you eat a huge pile of protein at once, you can't absorb it all for muscle. The rest gets converted to energy or just broken down and excreted. That's why spreading protein across meals actually builds more muscle, despite what protein powder ads promise. Here's where most diets get it wrong. They focus on total grams, not timing or context. And this mistake isn't just bad for muscle. It can mess with your immune system, hormones, even mood. Ever feel foggy after a low-protein meal? That's more than hunger. Your brain literally needs amino acids to make neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. Drop too low, and you get anxious, distracted, or even depressed, no matter how many carbs you eat. Now flip that around. Too much protein, especially from processed sources, can also backfire. High-protein diets may raise your risk of kidney strain, dehydration, or even gut problems, especially if you're not active. But most people don't realize your kidneys are only at risk if you have existing problems or eat absurdly high amounts. For healthy people, moderation plus hydration solves most of the supposed dangers. But here's the kicker. The real danger isn't too much protein, it's too little variety. Your body needs a mix of amino acids, vitamins, and gut-friendly fibers to thrive. Rely on just one source, and you risk missing key nutrients no matter how much you eat. Now, let's bust one last myth. Protein isn't just for bodybuilders. Every cell in your body needs it, from your immune cells to your hair follicles. Get too little, and you'll notice first in places you wouldn't expect. Brittle nails, slow wound healing, hair loss. But if you get the right amount at the right time with the right variety, your body runs like that high-tech factory again. So, how do you actually do that? Here's the evidence-based cheat sheet. First, spread your protein across 3 or 4 meals, not one massive steak at dinner. Aim for 20 to 40 grams per meal, depending on your age and activity level, not the old 10-gram per meal myth. Second, mix up your sources, animal and plant, so your amino acid pool stays full. Third, don't neglect carbs and fats. They help protein do its job. Fourth, if you're older or more active, nudge your intake higher, but don't obsess over grams. And finally, if you're worried about protein supplements, remember, whole food almost always wins. Supplements are just tools, useful if you're short on time or options, not magic muscle dust. Now, let's circle back to our opening paradox. You can eat a mountain of protein and still fall short if your timing, variety, or health is off. Or you can get just enough, in the right way, and watch your body thrive. Because protein isn't about how much you eat, it's about how your body actually uses it. So next time you see a new headline about protein hacks or magic numbers, remember, real health isn't built in grams. It's built in habits. And if you're curious what happens when you get it wrong for years, why low-protein diets can leave you weaker, sicker, and older than your age, click here for our deep dive on protein malnutrition and silent muscle loss. But let's dig even deeper into the hidden world of protein recycling. Every minute, your body quietly recycles millions of proteins, like a never-ending assembly line that never sleeps. When a single cell detects a defective protein, it tags it for breakdown, like putting a sticky note on broken office equipment. Specialized enzymes, called proteasomes, act as the recycling crew, chopping up the old proteins into their amino acid building blocks. These amino acids are then reassembled into fresh proteins. No waste, just clever resource management. Here's the kicker. About 80% of the amino acids in your body come from this recycling, not your dinner plate. This is why fasting or missing a meal doesn't instantly make you protein deficient. Your body's got backup supplies. But push the system too hard, like during illness or intense training, and those reserves run low, fast. That's when dietary protein really matters. It's your insurance policy when the factory's under stress. And here's a mind bender. Your body prioritizes which proteins to rebuild, leaving less urgent repairs for later. So, after surgery or illness, your body may delay rebuilding hair or nails, saving resources for vital systems. Ever noticed brittle nails after a tough flu? That's your factory's triage system in action. Let's bust another protein myth. The anabolic window after workouts. For years, we were told you have 30 minutes to get protein or lose all your gains. But modern studies show your muscles respond to protein for hours after training, not just a tiny window. You can still maximize muscle by spreading protein out over the day, not panic chugging a shake in the locker room. And here's a twist. Even rest days need protein. Your muscles repair and grow when you're not working out. Think of muscle as a renovation project. The real work happens when the tools are down and the workers rebuild. Now, what about plant-based diets? They can absolutely deliver enough protein if you play the combination game. Rice and beans together? Suddenly you've got all the essential amino acids your body craves. Even quinoa and soy are plant-based all-stars. Their amino acid profiles rival animal sources. But here's where most plant-based eaters stumble. Not enough total protein, or too little variety. If you mix up sources, lentils, nuts, grains, tofu, you're golden. If you don't, you might see slow recovery, low energy, or stubborn muscle loss. And here's a curiosity. Athletes on plant-based diets can match muscle gains of omnivores if they get enough protein and calories. The real pitfall? Not eating enough calories overall. Your body will burn protein for energy if you run a deficit. So yes, you can thrive on plants if you treat your diet like a construction project, not a single ingredient magic trick. What about protein absorption rates? Here's a wild stat. Your body can absorb about 8 to 10 grams of protein per hour, but that doesn't mean you need to micromanage every bite. Your system is smart. It pools amino acids from each meal to use as needed throughout the day. That's why an occasional protein-heavy meal won't hurt, but a steady flow does more for your muscle and mood. Ever wondered why some people eat loads of protein and still struggle to gain muscle? Genetics, sleep, stress, and activity matter just as much as what's on your plate. If you're sleep deprived or stressed, your body diverts protein to emergency repairs instead of muscle growth. So, protein is just one part of your body's daily juggling act. Now, let's close that curiosity loop. What happens if you consistently miss your protein needs? Symptoms sneak up: fatigue, mood swings, nagging injuries, and even a weaker immune system. Long-term, silent muscle loss, called sarcopenia, can start as early as your 30s if you don't get enough. But here's the hopeful truth: you can reverse much of it by changing your habits at any age. So, don't just count your protein, count your habits. Variety, timing, balance, and rest. Because at the end of the day, your body isn't a calculator. It's a construction site always under renovation.